Hey everyone, we are officially in month 3. So week 9 of the Starting Over program we created at Cornbread Hustle. And I love month 3 because we are done. Maybe not completely done, but we are pretty much done with all the vulnerability feeling stuff. I mentioned in the very first week that success will not fix you. So it's really important to make sure that we are looking inward, feeling our feelings, going through all the mushy stuff. If we are dealing with addictions or codependency or navigating toxicity in our lives, we have to really work on all of that before we can really get aligned with what our goals are and march towards those. I will speak for myself. I was a master at marching towards my goals and achieving things while my personal life was crazy. So to back up all the way in high school, that's when I started my first business. It was a photography business. After graduating from high school, I ended up getting a job in the newsroom, and then I filed a patent, invented a product, and I went on to become vice president of a PR firm, and I got to work with Mark Cuban and all of his Shark Tank companies. And then for the last 6 years, I have ran a multi-million dollar business. Definitely wasn't that way the first few years because I was, like I mentioned at the beginning of this video, I was trying to navigate having chaos in my personal life and building a business. It just doesn't work at some point. At some point it's going to catch up, and that's what happened to me. And that's why I try to make sure that I wake up every day and I remind myself that I'm one great decision away from having something amazing happen in my business, and I'm one really poor decision away from having something terrible happen in my business. So I definitely take it one day at a time as it relates to staying grounded and knowing that it's my daily decisions that collectively make up my success. So with all of that said, week 9 is all about really realigning your goals as it relates to your career path, rethinking your career goals. So, a lot of times starting over could mean starting a new business. It could mean trying to get into a new industry. So for me, I worked really, really, really hard in terms of entrepreneurship and for my career. Nothing came easy. And in fact, I think sometimes I took the most difficult path possible. So getting in the newsroom was a dream of mine. When I was in high school, I was the sports anchor of my school. I think it only lasted for a few weeks because I became addicted to methamphetamines, and that caught up to me really quick. But after I got sober, I reconnected with my inner child for the first time, remembering what I really wanted to do, and that was getting into the newsroom. So because of my addiction, I didn't take the path of college, and I also knew that it just wasn't the environment for me. As somebody who struggled with drug addiction and was involved with drug dealing, I just didn't think that college would be a healthy environment for me. So I took it upon myself to really study the news and really start to reach out to different reporters and just say, hey, my name is Cheri. I would share my story a little and talk about the things that I did in order to get to that point. So for instance, I get a lot of people that reach out to me all the time. They're like, hey, I want to start a second chance staffing agency. How did you do it? Can I pick your brain? I get hundreds of those. But if somebody comes to me and says, hey, I have done X, Y, and Z already. Here's my story. Here's why I want to do it. And I'm willing to pay you for your time. Of course, I'm not going to have anybody pay me. It's somebody who's just trying to learn from me to pay me for my time, but it's that willingness that catches my eye. So that's what I did. I reached out to news reporters that I'd see on the news, and I'd be like, hey, I just want to reach out. I want to see if I can shadow you. I'm an aspiring reporter. I would literally make my own newscasts. Like, I would totally just pretend that I was a news reporter, and I would create essentially a demo reel. And I tried to get a job for years. And because it's such a competitive business to get into, nobody would hire me. It was really desperation and creativity combined, but I ended up I reached out to Pizza Hut, which is next door to one of the news stations, and this is back when they still had, you could send a fax. And I asked, hey, if I fax you my resume, will you put it on the pizza box? And on the back right, if you hire me, I will deliver. And I had that pizza delivered to the hiring manager at CBS, a news station in Fort Worth, and I ended up getting that job. And it allowed me to get another job, which was an entry-level job, paying a lot less in a different city. But because it was my first time to be in news, I took both jobs. I took a job in Market 164 and a job in Market 5, and basically worked 7 days a week. But because it was something I really, really wanted to do, it kept me focused. It helped me really remember why I was staying off drugs and achieving new goals. Again, I've mentioned in previous videos that I didn't work on recovery, and I didn't get to the root of why I was addicted in the first place. So no spoiler alert. I mean, you guys already know I ended up becoming addicted to alcohol later on because of that chasing of achievement and chasing of success. But ended up working in the newsroom. Again, no college. Even though I was told relentlessly that I had to have a college education to get my foot in the door in the newsroom. While I was working in the newsroom, ended up inventing a product. I did kind of the same thing. I reached out to Mark Cuban, and I offered to work for free. And so many people were like, you're gonna work for free for a billionaire? And I was like, absolutely. Like, why wouldn't I? And that's the type of mindset I have. I wanted the experience. I wanted to be able to work side by side. Technically side by side. I wasn't like right next to him, but I wanted to be able to be in that environment side by side with all the people he worked with, so I could hone in on my PR and marketing skills. Because after leaving the newsroom, I started to work in PR and started my own agency, helping businesses get their messaging out there and get on the news. I know I don't talk a lot about my previous businesses on this platform because it's just been so important for me to share the message of hope and recovery. Because, like I said, at the end of the day, if I don't put God and my recovery first, I lose everything anyway. So we are already at 8 minutes and 30 seconds on this video. So as it relates to starting my staffing agency, that's whenever there was a huge passion behind that. Like, I was like, okay, cool. I got off drugs and I was able to start these businesses. I was able to work with these people, get these jobs. And so I started going into prisons and helping people do the same thing. 3 years into owning my company, I got the DWI, and that's when I had to really scale it all the way back to zero and start working on myself. But I didn't lose everything that I had learned. I didn't lose all of the business techniques and the different creative ways of getting what I wanted. So before this video ends, this one really caught up to me quick. The homework is write a list of things you love to do. Write a list of things you're really good at. Are any of those, do you see a way that you could make money on either of those things? And then make a list of people that are doing the things you want to do that you look up to, and start forming kind of a message to send to them on social media. But before you do that, do some homework and figure out a way to get the ball rolling, then reach out and ask if they are willing to be a mentor or give you a few minutes of their time. And then next week, we'll talk about what to do next. Bye.